Leo woman and Pisces man, how they think and communicate and how they may feel. Sun, Mercury and Moon. When we talk about compatibility between zodiac signs, there is a fundamental distinction that needs to be understood before any interpretation. We are not analyzing actual people with all the complexity of their histories, experiences, traumas, choices, and consciousness. We are analyzing symbols. We are observing the essential signs of certain archetypes and trying to understand how these forces might meet when expressed through two people. This distinction may seem simple, but it completely changes the way we look at astrology. Saying that a woman is a Leo and a man is a Pisces does not mean that we already know these two people. It simply means that we are dealing with two different symbolic configurations. Leo represents a particular quality of consciousness, while Pisces represents another. And when these two forces come into contact, we do not simply have a strong person meeting a sensitive person. We have two different principles trying to find a way to coexist. This is exactly where a deeper analysis begins. Leo and Pisces, two forces facing the mirror. Leo is a fire sign ruled by the sun. Its essence is related to expression, identity, centrality, vitality, creativity, dignity, and the conscious manifestation of the self. Pisces, on the other hand, is a water sign traditionally associated with Jupiter and, in modern astrology, also with Neptune. Its essence is related to sensitivity, receptivity, imagination, the dissolution of boundaries, empathy, subjective perception, and the ability to feel what often cannot be explained rationally. Therefore, when we place a Leo woman before a Pisces man, we are placing fire before water. But there is something even more interesting about this configuration. The woman with the sun in Leo manifests a solar, assertive, yang force within a female body. The man with the sun in Pisces manifests a more receptive, yin force within a male body. This does not mean that the Leo woman is necessarily masculine, nor that the Pisces man is necessarily feminine. We are speaking about symbolic polarities, not gender identity. The Leo woman can symbolically represent a force of outward expression, presence, and affirmation. She tends to say, I am, I express, I manifest, I want to create. The Pisces man can represent a force of inwardness, receptivity, and fusion. He tends to say, I feel, I perceive, I absorb, I understand what exists beyond forms. And precisely because of this relationship can become extremely interesting. They may complement each other, but they may also deeply disturb each other. The first difference, express or absorb. Leo tends to externalize what exists within. Pisces tends to absorb what exists around them. This difference can appear in completely ordinary situations. The Leo woman may want a clear answer, an objective expression, an obvious demonstration of interest. She may interpret silence as a lack of interest, insecurity, or lack of position. The Pisces man may experience exactly the same silence in a completely different way. For him, silence may mean reflection, emotional processing, sensitivity, or simply the need to remain within himself for a while. Here, one of the first conflicts is born. She may think, why doesn't he speak clearly? Or he may think, why does she need everything to be said immediately? Neither of them is necessarily wrong. They are simply operating through different languages. The sun, consciousness and the expression of the self. The sun represents, within this interpretation, one of the main centers of identity. It shows the way in which a person tends to affirm their existence, vitality, and conscious principle. In the Leo woman, the sun finds its own symbolic territory. This intensifies the solar nature of the archetype. There is a greater tendency toward affirmation, creative expression, the need for recognition, and the construction of a strong identity. In the Pisces man, the sun finds itself in a completely different territory. His consciousness tends symbolically to function through sensitivity, imagination, subjective perception, and the ability to perceive nuances. This creates a fundamental difference. She may seek definition, he may seek meaning, she may desire presence, he may desire connection. She may ask, "What do you want?" He may be trying to discover, "What am I feeling?" And understanding this difference is far more important than simply saying that Leo and Pisces are compatible or incompatible. Mercury, how they think and how they communicate. Now we reach an even more interesting layer. If the sun represents the center of consciousness, Mercury helps us understand how that consciousness organizes information, thoughts, words, and communication. And there is an extremely important astrological detail that superficial analyses often overlook. Mercury can never be very far from the sun. Because of its orbital proximity to the sun, Mercury can only appear in terms of zodiac signs, in the same sign as the sun, the sign immediately before it, or the sign immediately after it. Therefore, if we are analyzing a woman with the sun in Leo, her Mercury can only be in Cancer, Leo, or Virgo. In the case of the man with the sun in Pisces, his Mercury can be in Aquarius, Pisces, or Aries. This means that we cannot simply choose any sign for Mercury when constructing this archetype, and this limitation is extremely useful for deepening the analysis. The Leo woman and her 3 Mercury possibilities. If the Leo woman's Mercury is in Cancer, her way of thinking and communicating may incorporate a more emotional, subjective, and protective quality. In this case, behind an apparently confident solar personality, there may be a mind that is far more sensitive than others realize. If Mercury is in Leo, thought and identity become even more integrated. Communication may be expressive, theatrical, creative, direct, and marked by the need to affirm what she thinks. If Mercury is in Virgo, the solar force encounters a more analytical, critical, organized, and observant mind. Therefore, even within the Leo archetype, there are different ways of thinking and communicating. The Pisces man and his 3 Mercury possibilities. In the Pisces man, Mercury can be in Aquarius, Pisces, or Aries. With Mercury in Aquarius, the Piscean mind may acquire a more rational, independent, conceptual, and even unexpectedly objective quality. With Mercury in Pisces, thought and sensitivity become even more integrated. Communication may be intuitive, metaphorical, imaginative, and extremely sensitive to emotional atmospheres. With Mercury in Aries, a curious combination emerges. Behind the sensitivity of Pisces, there may be a mind that is much faster, more direct, impulsive, and assertive than the Pisces sun alone might suggest. And here we realize why an analysis based solely on the sun sign can be insufficient. When Leo speaks and Pisces listens. Imagine an ordinary situation. The Leo woman wants to talk about the relationship. She wants to know where they stand, what they feel, and where they are going. She asks directly. The Pisces man feels the intensity of the question before he has even formulated an answer. He may need time to organize what is happening internally. To her, this may look like avoidance. To him, her insistence may feel like pressure. This small episode can become a cycle. The more he withdraws, the more she demands clarity. The more she demands clarity, the more he may seek retreat. The more he retreats, the more she may interpret his behavior as rejection. And so a conflict is born that originally did not need to exist. The problem was not necessarily the feeling, it was the language. The moon, how they may feel toward each other. Now we reach the most delicate layer of this analysis. The sun shows a dimension of consciousness. Mercury shows a dimension of the mind and communication. But the moon takes us into the field of emotional experience, the need for security, emotional memory, and the way someone reacts internally to a bond. This is why we should not claim exactly how a Leo woman and a Pisces man feel simply by observing their sun signs. For that, we need to know their moons. And this is one of the greatest differences between a superficial analysis and a truly symbolic one. The Leo woman's moon can completely modify the way she experiences the Pisces man. A fire moon may desire intensity, spontaneity, and demonstrations. A water moon may deeply understand his sensitivity. An air moon may seek understanding through the mind first. An earth moon may demand stability, presence, and security. The same applies to the Pisces man. His moon may bring him emotionally closer to the Leo woman or create a sense of estrangement. A compatible moon can make what initially appears to be a difference between fire and water feel like complementarity. An incompatible moon can transform small differences into major emotional exhaustion. That is why when we ask, how may they feel, the true answer begins with the moon. The moon is not a detail. The Leo woman may admire the emotional depth of the Pisces man. She may feel that there is something within him that she cannot control, dominate, or completely understand. And this can be fascinating to a solar nature. On the other hand, the Pisces man may feel attracted to the strength, luminosity, and confidence he perceives in the Leo woman. She may represent precisely what is missing from his subjective experience at certain moments. But there is also a shadow. She may consider his sensitivity excessive. He may consider her need for affirmation excessive. She may think that he does not take a position. He may think that she does not listen. She may want to illuminate everything. He may prefer to remain in regions where not everything needs to be explained. And it is precisely in this space between light and ocean that this relationship becomes symbolically fascinating. Compatibility is not a sentence. We need to abandon the childish idea that two signs are simply compatible or incompatible. Symbolic astrology should not function like a judicial sentence. It should function as a map of possibilities. Leo does not need to learn to become Pisces. Pisces does not need to learn to become Leo. The learning may lie precisely in understanding what the other represents. Leo can teach presence. Pisces can teach depth. Leo can teach manifestation. Pisces can teach perception. Leo can remind us that an idea needs to take form. Pisces can remind us that form without meaning can become empty. But this only works when there is consciousness. Without consciousness, complementarity becomes conflict. When difference becomes exhaustion. There is a dangerous romanticization of the idea that opposites always complete each other. They do not. Some differences produce growth, others produce exhaustion. And no one is obligated to remain in a deeply disharmonious relationship simply because there is supposedly astrological compatibility. If there is no minimum resonance between two people, coexistence can progressively consume the vital force of both. A relationship should not require someone to destroy their own nature in order to remain within it. The Leo woman does not need to dim her light so that the Pisces man can feel comfortable. The Pisces man does not need to abandon his sensitivity to prove that he is strong enough for a Leo woman. True balance does not happen when one dominates the other. It happens when each person can exist without having to destroy the essential expression of the other. The deepest truth about Leo and Pisces. Perhaps the great question between these two archetypes is not about discovering who is right. Perhaps it is about discovering whether there is enough space for two different forms of consciousness to breathe within the same relationship. Leo needs to feel that it can shine. Pisces needs to feel that it can feel. Leo needs expression. Pisces needs depth. Leo seeks the center. Pisces dissolves centers. And when these two forces can recognize their differences without immediately turning them into flaws, an extraordinary possibility emerges. The Leo woman may discover that sensitivity is not weakness. The Pisces man may discover that affirmation is not necessarily selfishness. She can learn to listen to what is not being said. He can learn to say what he feels before silence turns into distance. She can understand that not every lack of response represents rejection. He can understand that not every question represents control. At this point, astrology ceases to be a system of labels and begins to become a language of self-knowledge. A final reflection. No relationship should be maintained simply because two signs appear to match. And no relationship should be rejected simply because two signs seem to represent different elements. True compatibility happens on layers far deeper than what an isolated sun sign can reveal. There are relationships that seem perfect on paper and become unbearable in real life. There are relationships that seem unlikely and yet discover extraordinary resonance. What determines this experience is not only the symbol, but the way two consciousnesses live and express that symbol. A Leo woman and a Pisces man can represent a union between presence and sensitivity, manifestation and perception, light and ocean. But they can also represent a collision between the need for expression and the need for retreat. The same polarity that can create fascination can also create exhaustion. Therefore, understanding the other does not necessarily mean remaining with the other. Sometimes deeply understanding an incompatibility is precisely what allows us to stop fighting against a reality that was never able to find balance. No one is obligated to submit to a disharmonious coexistence when there is no minimum resonance for the relationship. Remaining indefinitely in a bond that constantly requires repression, denial of one's own nature, or continuous depletion of vital force can transform what should have been a meeting into survival. Compatibility does not mean perfection. It means the possibility of resonance. And when that resonance exists, differences can become learning. When it does not exist, even what once appeared to be attraction can become exhaustion. Perhaps this is exactly why looking at the signs deeply is so different from simply classifying them as compatible or incompatible. Because in the end, the signs do not tell us whom we should love. They help us understand the forces we encounter when we love. If you enjoyed this deeper way of looking at compatibility between the signs, leave your opinion in the comments, tell us which combination you would like to see analyzed, and share this video with someone who is also interested in astrology beyond traditional labels. And if you want to receive new insights about compatibility, archetypes, the Sun, Mercury, the Moon, and the deeper layers of relationships between the signs, subscribe to the channel. Because perhaps understanding the signs is not about discovering who belongs with whom. Perhaps it is about discovering why certain people awaken within us forces we would never have known by ourselves.